So let's take a look at each of the players and the first impressions that I got of them as a psychologist.
I'm going to try to befriend everybody. I'm going to try and be everybody's favourite uncle.
So the first player that caught my eye was Tim. He's a university professor, so straight away he's not your typical reality show contestant by any stretch. What was really interesting in what he said about himself was that he said he was going to go in and try and make everybody like him, which of course is the point of the game. It's kind of how you're going to win the circle, is popularity. But on psychological level, it might not actually be the best strategy to try to make everybody like you, because we all know that in reality in life, that's not possible. You're always going to rub someone up the wrong way. Sometimes a better strategy can be to identify who the key players are and perhaps who the real kind of the people who are likely to hold some influence are, and really work on making sure that they like you rather than everybody, because that can also be a powerful way to start to pick off some of your opponents. So a powerful ally or a powerful base of other kind of comrades, if you like, can be a better strategy than trying to make everyone like you.
I'm always worried that people are only friends with me because of who my parents are. People think I talk too much, that I'm friendly. I mean, that sounds really big-headed and they think I'm that too. But I'm here to prove I'm not, I swear.
Woody is a bit of an interesting character because he's coming in from quite a unique position. He's grown up with two very famous, very successful parents. And what's interesting about this is that when he's actually come into the circle, he's taking quite a self-deprecating approach. He's kind of saying, oh, you know, I've not got my parents' money, I've kind of work in a pub. He's being really quite sort of modest in a way. And yes, he says a few positive things about himself, being kind of fun with his friends, but then he also kind of steps back again and he'll talk about things as if he's anticipating failure. In fact, one of the first things he does when he gets into the apartment is he notices a Rubik's Cube and says, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Now I'm never going to be able to solve that.
It's interesting to me as a psychologist, why is he anticipating failure in that way? What has he faced in his life that's maybe made him a little bit insecure, perhaps? We'll have to see how he gets on. But one thing's for sure about Woody, he's going to have to really bring a little bit of a confident side to himself into the game if he wants to make friends in there. Because if he comes from too much of a kind of humble, self-deprecating position, other people might not trust that and they might not think it's very genuine.
So I'm going in the circle as my oldest son, Jay. He's definitely going to be more popular than me. He's young and he's cool.
So Katie's our first catfish and she's going in as her son, Jay, which is an interesting strategy because she's saying that she knows him really well and therefore she feels like she'll be able to kind of reenact his character. But then again, she might be underestimating how easy it is sometimes to spot some flaws, because interestingly early on she's using some language that really a young guy probably wouldn't use, and she's not necessarily thinking about the fact that her being a kind of 43-year-old woman is going to be approaching the game and the building of the relationships in quite a different way to how a young guy would.
I've been planning this and been writing down all the words that the kids use. Bruv, sick, peng. Is that even normal?
But one of the things that I could identify with, and I'm sure if any of you out there are a similar kind of age, you would also find that, you know, some of the lingo that gets used, peng, sick, all of this kind of leaves you out in the cold. So it'll be really interesting to see how she manages to communicate with the other players on their level.
I'm going to go into the circle as Sammy, a 26-year-old single mum with a young child. My mum raised me as a single mum. I'm going in for the money. With my cheekiness, I'm pulling on the odd heartstring. Let's face it, who is going to vote out a young single mum?
Let's look at James and his game plan. His approach when he first arrived in the circle was really quite confident, almost quite brash. He's saying, I've got a game plan, I'm going in for the money, I know exactly what I'm doing. But then he's showing a slightly more sensitive side when he's saying that he's picked a single mum because he was raised by a single mum, he's got a lot of respect for her, and in his words, he was like, who's gonna reject, a single mum? So it's interesting that he's got that kind of sensitive side, because his day job, he says, is in recruitment, and he's charming, he's a cheeky scouser.
If you're doing a hashtag for me, I want it to be cheeky scouser.
It's as if he's actually quite adept at making good first impressions and forging relationships with people, because his very livelihood depends on that in the outside world. Is he going to be able to do that as Sammy? Is he going to be able to be charming and cheeky and all of those things? Or is he going to be trying to forge these relationships on a whole new level, perhaps going for the kind of sympathy vote? So I'm going to be watching really closely as to how he gets on, because I think on one level he is right that psychologically it will be seen as quite probably endearing, that Sammy's in there with her baby and perhaps everyone will be a bit, we'll take her to our hearts. But on the other hand, in the long-term process of the game, will it help him forge the relationships that's necessary to kind of really get people on your side?
Hi, I'm Brooke. I'm 24 years old. The others will play it safe, they sit on the fence. Yeah. That's not me. Well, I'll be flirting with the boys, I'll be flirting with the girls, I'll be flirting with the lamps, whatever it takes.
Now let's think about Brooke's approach. She's actually come in with quite a confrontational kind of edge to her, and you can tell that by a couple of things that she says. So for a start, she says, I'm going to flirt with the guys, I'm going to flirt with the girls, I'm going in there to win. She's got a very, very kind of competitive attitude to it all. But she also says something quite key.
I think some people find me intimidating because I travel a lot, I speak multiple languages.
Now, it can be interesting when people say things like that, because sometimes it can be a kind of preemptive defense mechanism against rejection. So it allows you to kind of think, okay, well, if someone doesn't like me, it's not because I'm not likable, it's not because I've done something wrong, it's because they're just a bit intimidated. So that's quite an interesting side to her character, that she's going in guns blazing, she's ready to take on the other players, and yet there's a little part of her that's already anticipating rejection. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
I have Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. I had an ileostomy bag for about 7 months. It's kind of weird having a bag, so it is your new arsehole. So you still fart out of your stomach. I could watch the whole of Titanic and not have to get up and go to the toilet.
Okay, let's talk about Georgina. Now, she's a fascinating character. First of all, she seems absolutely fearless. She's very bold. Maybe because she's been through quite a lot, she immediately is talking about her Crohn's disease and about how she'd been through some really quite difficult times that many people would be very embarrassed about. But she's really taking ownership of it and going, hey, this is what I've been through. This is who I am. And she's looking at it really with quite a sense of humour. So she's looking on the funny side and sort of making some jokes about how she was able to sit through Titanic without having to get up and go to the loo. And I love that approach about her. So it'll be really fascinating to see how she handles the game, because I would imagine that she's got quite a knack for kind of maybe lightening the mood, maybe approaching things with a sense of humour, where other players perhaps are a little bit more serious, but we'll have to wait and see.
Some people don't take to me because I'm very upfront and I kind of say exactly what I think and exactly what I feel. So I actually struggle to make friends myself. I'm really in social media, especially Instagram. I love a quick pic.
It's interesting that she says that she's not actually that great at making friends on the outside, but she is a real fan of kind of being on Instagram. And I think, that really speaks of her generation. A lot of people feel quite comfortable online and engaging in kind of social media, but don't necessarily feel that comfortable making relationships in real life. Well, of course, in everyday life, that might hold you back, but in the circle, that could be a real advantage.